One of the perplexing questions of my existence as a woodworker has been, how do I make a cutting board and take it from a $45 cutting board to a $145 cutting board? I actually designed these and I've had them at my craft shows for over a year and they have not sold. And I even laser engraved one of them so that I could add a little bit more value. We're gonna figure out a way to make cutting boards that actually sell by using silicone molds, epoxy, pigments, and all kinds of unique fixtures in that direction. All right, so buckle up. This is the complete list of all of the rules that you need to know and follow to make the most valuable, best-selling epoxy cutting boards. Rule number one, you need to make sure that you choose the right wood. If you choose a soft wood over a hard wood, your cutting boards will not sell and they will break down over time. Some of the best woods that you want to be using are walnut, cherry, maple, padauk, all of the stuff that has a lot of color and density. Because mesquite is my favorite wood, that's what I'm going to be using for this cutting board. Rule number two, prepare the wood accordingly. If you buy S4S lumber, which is sawn on all four sides lumber, that's fully prepared and ready to be glued up, then this doesn't really apply to you. But if you have a stack of rough cut lumber, sometimes you have to mill it down and get it flat, and then after that you have to sand all of the live edges if you're using live edge wood. It's really important that you fill all of the voids in your wood before you go into filling it with epoxy. If you don't remove all of the bark, there's a chance that your epoxy cutting board could fall apart because the bark will fall off and the epoxy portion would fall off with it. If you don't fill all your voids in the sides of your edge grain, there's a chance that while the epoxy is hardening up, it'll release bubbles which will then be trapped in your epoxy resin. So make sure that you sand it nicely, fill all of your voids, and sometimes a lot of folks like to go in and just wipe a little epoxy down on their live edge surface so that it seals up tightly before you even go into the epoxy. Rule number three, choose your mold wisely. You can always make your own molds, but if you choose to buy a silicone mold, that is the best case scenario when it comes to the removal of epoxy. Another one of the perks about silicone molds as opposed to DIY molds is that you can get these in all shapes and sizes. I got this 12-inch by 24-inch mold from craftedelements.com. I got a circle one and a Texas shaped mold. So you can literally think outside the box here. I've seen lots of creators try to make an epoxy cutting board or table and not take the precautionary steps to make sure that their project releases away from the mold that they've created. So if you use silicone, it's really easy. But if you do use silicone, you want to get a can of this mold release lubricant from Adhesive Guru. I found them on Amazon, and it's a really cheap way to spray into your silicone mold and make sure that the release is clean and easy. That way you don't damage your silicone molds and the investment that you made for them can last a long time. Rule number four, measuring your resin output accurately. Epoxy can be very expensive, let's just be honest about it. And if you waste after every single project, you're gonna be bleeding money at the end of all of this. If you're a smart person and you can measure volume, then good for you. But if you want to do things easy, you can do the rice method. All you have to do is fill the void in your mold up with rice, take that rice, put it into your container where you're going to be pouring your epoxy, check out how many ounces of rice that you used, and that's how many ounces of epoxy that you'll be needing. I'm using this liquid glass deep pour epoxy from Super Clear, and it makes it so that I can pour 2 to 4 inches thick worth of material. So that's a lot of epoxy to be calculating, so the rice trick is really helpful. Before we go any further, I want to say thank you to Super Clear Epoxy, who is now a partner with the Reformation Woodshop YouTube channel. I'm going to be doing a lot more epoxy in the future, and I'm really excited about working with Super Clear, so shout out to them, give them a follow on all their socials, and I'll have discount codes in my bio if you want to get more into epoxy yourself as well. The epoxy I'm going to be using is their liquid glass deep pour epoxy. You can pour 2 to 4 inches worth of material. It's a 2-to-1 mixture. What that means is you'll use 2 parts of their base resin and 1 part of their curing agent, mix those together, and you got yourself a perfect batch of epoxy resin. Rule number 5, let's talk about color, baby. Nobody wants a clear, translucent epoxy cutting board. Let's be honest with ourselves, all right? Black, blue, red, green, yellow, all of the random colors of the rainbow. That's what we want to see. There are lots of companies that do mica powder pigments, but I am using the Starbun mica pigments. It's got a very large variety. One little vial of these guys goes a long way. All you have to do is take a little bit, dump it into your epoxy, mix it up very thoroughly, and pour. Adding color is a very easy way to make your cutting board look high-end. Rule number 6, pop your bubbles and clear the surface. Just because you did an appropriate job of mixing, you didn't introduce a bunch of bubbles when you stirred it, and you sealed that live edge of your wood, doesn't mean that bubbles still won't be introduced no matter what. It's just a common occurrence that might organically happen, and it's out of your control. You can take a heat gun or a blowtorch and do that, but if you are using a blowtorch, make sure to keep it far away from your silicone mold. You don't want to burn it and damage that because you want to use it forever. Rule number 7, you want to pour in layers. If you want depth and you want to add cool features into your epoxy, like this Lego Batman that I plan to put into a cutting board, I think the general rule is lay down a color, like this black that I did for this cutting board, let that sit for a while, come back when it's a little bit tacky to the touch, and then put whatever it is that you're gonna put in there, like these shell casings that I added, and then come back with the clear so that you can see everything that you laid down inside, but if you flip the cutting board over, you don't see any of it. Rule number 8, you need to be patient. I'm talking to me, not you. It is good to wait over 48 hours for these guys to fully cure and harden. Because if you're pouring something that's about 2 to 4 inches thick, it's gonna take a while. You wanna make sure that you maintain a clean area because if a layer of dust gets on top of your epoxy, it could be cured into the resin. Also, you wanna maintain a cool area. It's best to maintain like a 70-degree temperature, even though it's 105 here in Texas right now. I'm doing my best. Rule number 9, finish the way you started with tons and tons of effort. The fine details to finish this guy off are what takes the longest amount of time. If you have access to a big drum sander like I do, then things can go a little bit quicker, but sanding through the grits is the most important part of making sure that your resin looks beautiful and is translucent. I sanded this thing down to 100 grit, then after that I moved up to 220, then 320, then 400 grit. Sanding up these things to be beautiful is really what is going to separate you from the other guys when it comes to making the most beautiful projects possible. After you sand, you need to make sure that you give a nice edge profile. Take your router, give a nice round over or chamfer edge to this cutting board. That will make it look a little bit more regal and well defined and beautiful. After you're done sanding, you can clean your surface with isopropyl alcohol. That will pull all of the dirt and dust out. That way you can see if there are any imperfections left in the surface, which there happen to be with this guy. You can dig that dust out. And again, I'm using this Adhesive Guru CA glue to go back in, fill all of those pits. I hit it with this accelerant that makes it instantly dry, and then you can sand that flush, and it dries as clear as the epoxy, so you'll never even know that it was there to begin with. I've used other CA glues in the past, but because I ordered this mold release lubricant, I went ahead and got some CA glue from Adhesive Guru at the same time, just so I could check it out. A single bottle of this glue and accelerant on Amazon is about 12 bucks, and as you can tell, you can use it on wood and epoxy, and it blends beautifully. All right, rule number 10, hardware and oil, AKA the last hurrah. I've been using Howard's cutting board oil for a long time, and I even use their Butcher Block conditioner to make sure to build up a nice coat. That way it's seasoned and ready to use for any food cutting purposes you need. I've used this oil from Howard products for almost the entire time that I've been woodworking. It's made with clear, odorless, pure food grade mineral oil, and it's perfect for the initial oiling or seasoning of cutting boards. It's really easy to apply. You just pour this bad boy generously all over your board, let it stand for 1 hour, and then come back and apply another coat. Your golden rule here is reapply whenever your wood looks or feels dry. This is my it's time to give the cutting board a massage period, because I will rub it in really nice and deep, wipe it off, then do the process again, get it really, really lubricated. Okay, we're not going there, stop it. Get it nice and seasoned. That way there's a coat built up that will protect itself for a long time. After that, lastly, I just put these cute little feet on it so it's elevated off the table, and that is it. If you follow all of these steps, you will have a high-end $200 plus cutting board. And if you make, 10, 15, 20 of these, you'll be a millionaire. If you have any tips that I missed, I'd love to do a follow-up video and cover even more tips for epoxy cutting boards, so leave them in the comment section down below. If you have any questions, you can also leave them, and everybody feel free to answer the questions in the comment section. This is a community of doers, not viewers. We are trying our best to make sure everyone else can try their best. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe button. I am pushing to 50K subs on this channel by the end of the year, and if I do that, the plan is to make 50 mallets to give away, and if you're a subscriber, you are eligible to win one of those. So please hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. If you watched this video and thought to yourself, man, that was so good, how can I give this guy money to repay him? Then you're in luck. I have a lot of stuff listed on my Etsy store that you can buy to support the channel, so head on over to reformationwoodshop.etsy.com to grab something.